rid of that 90-degree point of where the actual blow-off valve was on the charge pipe, that's one less area for the air to run into. So that was the reason that that was done. That, and it simplifies the charge pipe required. As far as being able to daily drive a hood exit, no, it's not something I would say that you could really daily drive. I did keep it so that I still have my downpipe, and if I want to go on a long drive, maybe to an event or something, I can throw the regular downpipe on and then just pull it off when I get to where I'm going. The intercooler, having the blow-off valve up there, I can't tell you if it's louder or more noticeable, because the exhaust absolutely takes up that noise on the outside. It's definitely louder where you can't hear it, because the exhaust is up front and so is the blow-off valve. I do plan to, with the intercooler, do it in batches of 5 with my fabricator, and after I go to the dyno, and when it cools down a little bit, because it's just way too hot, 95 degrees out, 100 degrees out, it's just too much. I'm actually here at the post office to drop off some packages for some stuff I'm shipping out. But we plan on doing a replacement for the crash bar, but actually still have 1-inch tubing, something thick that is still at least somewhat of a barrier of protection and chassis stiffness, instead of just eliminating that. Now the hood exit, I'll get into this a little more later in the video, but the hood exit is very difficult to do when you have a radiator support in the car, and I have no upper radiator support. Mine is basically deleted, but I'll get into that later. It's just a little low boost, third gear. Is that another, what is that car? Low boost, third gear, like 16 pounds. So, believe it or not, I started to get some traction control kicking in, even at such a low boost level. And I have the Mickey Thompson ET Streets on here. I think it's set a little bit kind of like, I want to say too aggressive at the moment, but the problem is that if I turn it into, say, sport mode, it just totally, traction control just doesn't even miss, like it considers it an error. It's almost non-functional. Turbo comes on so hard that the car actually just blows the tires off instead, and the hondata traction control doesn't even turn on. So, in a setup this kind of crazy, you really have to kind of dial your torque request back so that you don't just annihilate tires. No amount of hondata traction control setting at like 25 pounds third will stop this from blowing the tires off. Even with the tires I have, I would probably need like an ET Street R, or either that or a real Hoosier drag radial, literally, which basically is slick that's DOT rated because it has a radial in the tire. Therefore, it's like DOT tire, in order for this to really stick. But another reason I haven't gone to a more aggressive tires, I'm still on stock transmission, and I'm kind of trying to keep from breaking any of the gears. Not saying that I will, the stock trans is really good, but just in 4th gear, I don't want to like run 500 foot-pounds of torque through it in 4th gear and just annihilate the transmission. You know, it's about longevity. You know, PPG gears, okay, something in the future, but not right now. The car revs so high, and it just like 3rd gear ends at like 100 miles an hour. It's just massively different altogether when you rev this high. But you know, the intercooler just really, definitely, between the intercooler, the hood exit, and everything, definitely increasing overall efficiency. How much of an efficiency increase per pound of boost, we really won't know until I get the car back on the dyno. But it's going to be really difficult to have like exact A to B conditions. But we'll see soon enough. Soon enough. So, some of the things that give me an advantage when it comes down for me doing a hood exit versus other people is I don't have a rad support that goes right here. And this is an advantage because you want the ideal scenarios where the O2 sensor, I have it underneath, where there's 18 inches of pipe between the where the O2 sensor comes in and the exit to prevent any basically air reversion getting to the sensor and throwing off the fueling. So also because I have no radiator support, I was able to actually shift the hood exit over and kind of create a longer bend, a better swooping bend. If we were to do this or try to do this on another car, the hood exit would have to be moved over to here in order to clear the inlet. Now I have quite a bit of room here between the inlet and the hood exit. And some people are probably going to say, oh, you're going to heat up your inlet. Well, if you guys understood how little surface area is here and how fast the air gets past here, it's really effectiveless. There's no point, especially when I have a very large intercooler. I'll get into more on the intercooler in another video, but the hood exit being the primary focus. Now, I've seen another person who does have a hood exit, but the problem is this pipe has to be cut on such an angle that it's almost like running into an exhaust wall. If you look at the downpipes from Rampage, they're really good when it comes down to about flow through the downpipe. The other thing is I'm actually using a 3.5 inch pipe. The outlet on the turbo is 3 inch, but I went to a 3.5 inch pipe to help with the bend radius and getting exhaust out. Whenever you have bends in the exhaust, it just creates more of a restriction. So if I were to do a hood exit in a 3 inch pipe, if it would only be really viable to equal the same flow if it was a dead straight pipe, which would be pretty much impossible unless I turn the turbo on its side, which you can't do that in here, obviously. But, and I'll get into the intercooler piping and the math about that in another video and as to why that was changed. Another thing that I did, because I'm so close to the turbine housing, because it expands out from 3 to 3.5, I had my fabricator use a slightly shorter O2 bung so that it was a little bit more into the path of the exhaust to give it better fueling accuracy. These are all things that are important when you're doing something like a hood exit. The length of the pipe, how the pipe bends when you're doing it to make it where the hood exits. And I gotta say, he did a fantastic job when it comes down to actually where it sits out of the hood. I mean, how much better can you possibly get? I mean, it's a beautiful job there. But as you've seen, you know, and as I explained in the video, some of the characteristics, yes, you do get better spool. Yes, it will make more power, even if I change nothing else on the car, because I don't have the back pressure of a 3 inch exhaust. To put this in perspective, and I know this car is not a Supra, but this is the best relevance I have. It's been a little while, but a Supra that was tuned on a dyno made 526 with a 3 inch exhaust. By going to a 3.5 inch exhaust, he made 40 more wheel horsepower, almost 40 more wheel horsepower. Now, I'm not saying that's what I'm going to make here because we're only dealing with a 2-liter motor. We'll see if the car is going to make what it's going to make. But the point is that having a full 3 inch exhaust is not really viable for, you know, 700 wheel horsepower. It's definitely not ideal. Like, granted, I did make 700 wheel horsepower on the car with the full exhaust on it, and yes, with the Mishimoto intercooler, but the exhaust is really not ideal. Anyway, before I close this video out, definitely don't have enough subscribers. So hit the subscribe, the like, pass the videos on, share them with your friends. The more people that subscribe, it gives me better ability to give you content like this and more R&D. So thanks again and have a great day.